The world of German pop music has lost a beloved voice. Andreas Martin has died at the age of 72, leaving behind a legacy of heartfelt songs, unforgettable performances, and a life story marked by both triumph and tragedy. According to his longtime manager Joseph Thoman, Martin passed away early Saturday morning in Neunkirchen, North Rhine-Westphalia, the quiet town where he had been living in his later years. The news was first reported by the German tabloid Bild, which has often followed Martin's career and personal life through its many highs and lows. His funeral will reportedly take place at the beginning of October, in what his family has described as a very intimate ceremony, far away from the public spotlight that had once defined so much of his existence. For someone whose music reached millions and whose voice became a fixture of German radio and television, it is fitting that his final farewell will be a private one, a moment of peace for a man who gave so much of himself to the stage, but who spent his final years seeking quiet and solace. Andreas Martin's life and career were nothing short of remarkable. Born in Berlin in 1952, he grew up during a time when music was transforming rapidly across Europe, and his passion for song began early. Friends and family often recalled that even as a child, he was humming melodies, inventing lyrics, and captivated by the idea of expressing emotions through music. By the time he reached his teenage years, Martin had already set his sights on pursuing a career in entertainment. He had a distinctive voice, warm, deep, and emotive, that set him apart from his peers. It was a voice that could carry both joy and heartbreak, a voice that would eventually make him one of the most beloved singers in Germany's Schlager and pop music scene. His rise to fame came in the 1980s, a decade that proved to be the golden era of his career. Martin's songs such as Deine Flügel fangen Feuer, Your Wings Catch Fire, Du bist alles, You Are Everything, and Amore Mio captured the hearts of listeners all over Germany and beyond. These were not just songs, but soundtracks to people's lives, tunes played at weddings, first dances, late-night drives, and heartbreaks. There was something deeply relatable about his music. His lyrics often spoke of love, longing, and the universal experiences of joy and pain. He had a way of taking everyday emotions and turning them into something poetic, wrapping them in melodies that stayed with listeners long after the music stopped. Martin became a household name thanks to his regular appearances on the legendary ZDF show Hit Parade. At a time when television variety shows were one of the most powerful ways for musicians to reach audiences, Hit Parade was the place where stars were made, and Andreas Martin quickly became a favorite guest. His charismatic stage presence and easy smile made him instantly likable. Fans would write letters to him, attend his concerts in droves, and wait outside venues for hours just to catch a glimpse of him. For many, Andreas Martin wasn't just a singer. He was a voice that seemed to understand them personally. But Martin's contributions to the music industry extended far beyond his own performances. He was also a gifted composer and producer, working behind the scenes to craft hits for other major artists. Among those he collaborated with were Wolfgang Petri, one of Germany's most successful Schlager singers, and the internationally renowned Engelbert Humperdinck. This dual talent, the ability to write for himself and for others, set Martin apart as a true artist, someone who lived and breathed music. Those who worked with him often described him as meticulous but kind, always striving for perfection in his work while treating his colleagues with respect and warmth. Despite his professional success, Andreas Martin's personal life was far from free of hardship. Perhaps the most devastating moment came in 2017, when his wife Juliana died by suicide at the age of 64. The loss was shattering. Friends and associates say Martin was never quite the same after that day. He and Juliana had been married for decades, and she had been not just his partner in life, but also his anchor, someone who kept him grounded through the roller coaster of fame. Her passing left a void that music, his lifelong refuge, could not immediately fill. In the months following her death, Martin withdrew almost completely from public life. Concert dates were canceled, and interviews went unanswered. He retreated into solitude, grappling with a grief that was too heavy to carry in front of the cameras. He would later speak in rare moments about how difficult those years were, how he questioned everything, including whether he even wanted to keep making music. Fans worried that they might never see him perform again. For many of them, Martin's silence mirrored their own heartbreak. They too had lost someone they loved through his music, and they longed for him to return and sing again, not just for them, but for himself. Grief has a way of either breaking a person entirely or transforming them, and in Martin's case, it seemed to do both. It took years before Andreas Martin was ready to return to the studio, and when he did, it was with a renewed sense of purpose. His final album, Here in Dem Moment, Here in the Moment, released in 2023, was widely regarded as some of his most poignant work to date. The album reflected the lessons of a man who had lived through profound loss and had come to understand the fragility and preciousness of life. Many of the songs were imbued with themes of cherishing the present, of loving deeply, and of finding hope even in dark places. Fans embraced the album not just as music, but as a message, a gentle reminder from Andreas that even after everything he had endured, beauty could still be found. The news of Martin's passing has left fans across Germany and the wider European music community in mourning. Social media has been flooded with tributes, with many sharing personal memories of how his songs had been a part of their lives. Fellow musicians have also expressed their grief, remembering Martin not just as a performer, but as a colleague and a friend. His manager, Joseph Thoman, described him as a man who lived for music, who gave everything he had to every note he sang. That sentiment is echoed by those who knew him personally. Andreas Martin was said to be humble despite his fame, always taking time to greet fans, to sign autographs, and to talk with people who told him how much his music meant to them. What makes his death particularly poignant is that it seems to close the final chapter of a life that had been both luminous and marked by sorrow. Andreas Martin was a man who loved passionately, who sang about that love, and who bore the pain of its loss with quiet dignity. The decision to hold his funeral in a small, private ceremony speaks volumes about who he was in the end, someone who valued peace over spectacle, someone who wanted to be remembered not with fanfare but with love and respect. It will likely be attended only by close friends, family, and those who were a part of his inner circle. And yet, beyond that small gathering, thousands of fans will be mourning him in their own way, playing his songs, remembering the concerts they attended, and perhaps feeling as though a piece of their own youth has slipped away with him. Looking back on his life, it's impossible not to see Andreas Martin as more than just a singer. He was a storyteller, a companion to millions through their happiest moments and their hardest nights. His music spoke to the universality of human experience, and his voice had the rare power to make listeners feel understood. That is why his death feels so personal to so many. In a world where fame often creates distance between artists and their audiences, Martin somehow managed to close that gap, to make people feel that he was singing directly to them. His passing is not just the loss of an artist, but of a friend, a voice that made life a little softer and a little brighter for those who listened. As Germany prepares to lay him to rest, one thing is certain: Andreas Martin's music will continue to live on, reminding listeners of love, resilience, and the beauty of being truly present here in the moment. In that sense, his final message was perhaps his greatest gift, that no matter how fleeting life may be, its moments, if cherished, can last forever.